So it's 0 o'clock. Hang on.
Come on.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
I remember you left my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling. Remember how we felt alive.
So, Wednesday, where are we going?
Well, since we're talking about traffic today, we're actually going to go to a place where there is no traffic.
That sounds like quite the holiday for me.
Yeah, we're going to the He Yuan Twisties, and for those of you who don't know where the He Yuan Twisties are, that's the place where I got stung by that Asian giant hornet.
Oh, wonderful! That's the place where I fell off the mountain when I was camping.
That's correct.
There's a lot of drama happened there.
It's actually a really, really nice place for motorcycling. It's amazing.
The reason we always go.
Yeah. So, Sea Milk, I think you should be introducing somebody.
We do have a special guest here with us today, an Australian, not only subscriber but also Patreon. Stefan, and he's here with us on your Night Rider scooter.
Hello, I'm Stefan.
Correct. So, Stefan, for those of you who don't know who you are, where are you from?
I'm from Australia, Sydney, so the East Coast.
Okay, excellent. So, Sea Milk, I think we're going to have to ask our guest here. In fact, I'm just going to ask you straight out. What do you think, Stefan, of the traffic here in China?
Did we lose him in the traffic?
No, but it was actually quite an interesting little maneuver he had to pull there. So, yeah, what do you think of the traffic here in China?
It's somewhat chaotic.
Just to be brutally honest, I mean, you're off the boat, right? You've been in Shenzhen one day, then you came up with me to Huizhou.
Straight on the bikes, like, I don't know what I was thinking, holy jeez. But, yeah, it's, okay, to give a contrast, Australia's traffic is very ordered. Everything's very predictable. If someone, I don't know, changes a lane without an indicator and you don't see it coming, it's rare. It's very rare. And at traffic lights, everyone stops at the red, turns on the right signal. They don't do U-turns at traffic lights. It's all very predictable. And even like merging in motorways, there's like the old school zipper, one car in front of the other. So coming to China, it's a completely different world. The drivers just go where they can, not really where they should. People cutting across the road, coming out of intersections, not looking when they're leaving driveways. On a motorcycle, it's probably god tier difficulty.
You know how cool you just made us sound? We live in this stuff.
It's nuts, but I don't know, it keeps you on your toes. I kind of like it. It's good. But it's completely different world. Completely different.
Awesome. Well, since you've talked a little bit about Australia, maybe we can all talk a little bit about our countries in contrast to China. So, Sea Milk, why don't you start with America?
Other than the fact that we drive on the other side of the road, compared to Australia, I'm just going to assume, without having been there, I'm going to assume it's probably very similar. People follow the rules, and if you don't, they'll punch your wing mirrors off of your car if you cut someone off or piss them off. Number two, if you get caught by the cops, the penalties are severe in terms of fines you get, and also jail time if you're doing reckless things like you'd see here.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot I can say that you guys probably don't already know. It's a law-abiding state, or it's a law-abiding country, and people follow the rules for the most part, and you pay the dues when you don't. What about your country?
Well, it's kind of half and half, to be honest. There's for instance, the taxi drivers, the black taxis, which service the townships and whatnot, these little minibuses. They break all the rules and without any repercussions, but if you're a law-abiding citizen and you try to... If you're a law-abiding citizen, you try to break the law, you will get stomped. I mean, you'll have like roadblocks which specifically stop you, look in your car and see if you've got like one of those triangles or whatever, and if you don't have one, they fine you. Stupid things like that. Okay, so we've reached the Twisties, and Stefan, what do you think?
Oh man, it's so much fun, and it's really, really picturesque. It's like I just look left, I look right, and it's pretty. It's really nice. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's sort of night and day, isn't it? just down the road, there's like that horrible traffic, you know, and the urban wasteland stuff. Yeah.
Some people go for that though.
What's that?
Some people like that kind of stuff.
I don't know, man. I think you're wrong. Now, we're talking about traffic in China, and there is a lot of traffic. Let's not talk about how good or bad it is, but there's just so much of it. Let's try to explain that. Seamilk, maybe you can start with that.
Yeah, so when I first came to my city, basically, there was not many cars on the road. But Shenzhen and Beijing and Shanghai, they had tons of cars on the road at that point. But it's gotten so bad that you can expect to wait in traffic for up to 2 hours sometimes when you're just going 10 Ks down the road. And it's so much worse than back home that they've actually instituted something called the license plate lottery. Maybe you can elaborate, because you're in Shenzhen, right?
Yeah, hey, Seamilk, your indicator's on. Yeah, okay, anyway. Yeah, let me tell you about Shenzhen. Now, Shenzhen, they were encouraging people to buy cars because they banned motorcycles back in the early 2000s.
Right.
So there is no cheap form of transport. The only way to get around is either on the public transport, which is actually really good, or by like a cheap motorcycle or something in the beginning, but they cut that out now.
Yeah.
So the only option you have is a car. And everybody, and Shenzhen became a very rich city. It's well known to have like the most millionaires, except for maybe Shanghai. It's got the stock exchange, all that shit there, right? So anyway, everybody and their dog is buying like 2 or 3 cars. Like, people have got cars, right? Even though they're so expensive. And now you got a problem where there are too many cars on the road. In fact, there are no parking spots. There's a lack of parking. People have to park in weird and wonderful places, right?
Right.
If I come home at like 7 p.m. or later, I have to search for like sometimes half an hour to try and find a parking spot. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so in order to try and stop the whole the whole like car explosion thing, they've introduced a lottery. So when you want to buy a car, you go into a lottery, and now they're only allowing 100,000 license plates to be sold every year. So you have to wait for your turn until
That's
you can
crazy.
win a license plate. Yeah.
That's for the whole city?
In Shenzhen.
Whoa.
But they're doing that in Shanghai as well, and Beijing, and like all the big cities.
And now in the small cities like Huizhou that are near Shenzhen, we're getting a massive influx of people from Shenzhen and Hong Kong that are just buying cars there.
Yeah.
And actually choosing to move their offices, especially if they're like entrepreneurs or business people, to move their offices there because it's that bad. Like, traffic has gotten so bad that it's actually put a dent in people's lives.
Sure.
It's a detriment.
Yeah, absolutely. Slow ass scooter.
It's your last shot at fame, Stefan. Feel free to say whatever you want.
All right. Okay. It's completely off topic, but you know these little electric unicycle things.
Yeah, yeah.
Winston did a video on it a while ago, and I think they are so cool. And I bought one. And
Cool.
Apparently, in the East Coast of New South Wales of Australia, it is so illegal to ride those anywhere on the road, footpath, even on your own property.
Really?
Apparently, you get booked for an unregistered, uninsured vehicle.
No shit.
And because it hasn't got indicators or lights, you can't register it. So it's just like $1,000 fall, $1,000 Australian fine, and see you later. And it's just, and compared to China, it's like that sort of stupid nonsense just wouldn't fly here. Like, people would be like, what? You're fining me for this? Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. They'll just keep riding it anyway. They won't pay the fine.
But and it's also a cultural thing, a mindset, because I was riding it anyway, and one guy was walking his dog, and he's like, oh, you know what, those illegal? And I'm like, excuse me, who are you? Like mind your own business. And here, that's what they do.
Yeah, they mind their own business, which is nice. Awesome.
Unless you're bothering them, which they've got every right to say, hey, stop bothering me.
Exactly. So, Seamilk, that pretty much wraps this topic up, doesn't it?
Sounds about right.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to our subscribers before we sign off?
First off, I want to say thank you so much to Stefan for joining us on this Churchill ride. Thank you for being our patrons on our sister channels, ADVChina and SerpentZA. And thank you so much, and you are welcome in China anytime, and I hope we're welcome in Australia, and maybe we can do a ride there at some point.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely.
So, Anyway, that's it for this episode.
Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much, guys. I'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
And most of all, stay awesome.
Kick
nice.
ass.